So we were talking about superstars earlier on, Neil, specifically ones that insist on running the club, and it seems appropriate that we completely unintentionally and coincidentally talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, who has failed
Nice
in his
segue.
takeover of Manchester United, miserably at that. But this has been an ongoing saga. And once again, we talked at the start of the season, really, and we're kind of studying it, knowing how this is going to end. And we finally hit the watershed, I think, at the Tottenham Hotspur game during the week at time of recording.
Yeah,
Uh,
where Ronaldo completed his face heel turn,
yes.
um, and is now not really that well liked at Manchester United.
Mm.
So, yeah, no, explain the scenario. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so this has been a what I would call a love-hate relationship between Eric Ten Hag and Cristiano Ronaldo, in which Eric Ten Hag loves his players and he hates Ronaldo. And
And
Ronaldo hates
Ronaldo loves himself and hates
of
everybody else.
himself. Exactly, yeah. So it's very complicated, and that's about as simplified as I can make it. So, like, if you watch Man United over the season, and especially in towards the second half of last year, it was very pointedly obvious that the team were playing worse with Ronaldo in it, um, because every ball had to go to him. The entire play was focused to him. He was like a weird kind of bottleneck in the team. Like even if you look at players' individual stats, the likes of Bruno Fernandes, the likes of Bruno Fernandes being the kind of the key symptom of it, if you will. The likes of Sancho and a lot of other players, they just very clearly go into passenger mode when Ronaldo was around. Um, and it was very evident that once he was out of the team, they were playing so much better because everyone was sharing the loads. And Ten Hag, recognizing this, obviously makes the very obvious decision to drop him and to a lesser extent Maguire. But Maguire was another separate issue that we'll talk about in another podcast. But Ronaldo obviously doesn't take too kindly to being replaced. Even though he's at the tender age of 67, at some point he has to fucking retire because unfortunately not everyone can be Katsushi Mura, who's still fucking 56 and playing in the J League. So at one point in his life, he had to accept that he was going to be put out the pasture. And the time has now come. He's 37 years old and he's playing in a Manchester United team who's so much of a head case as it is. They physically can't manage a superstar like him. We fast forward then to I suppose we'll talk about the preseason. I think it was the Real Valladolid they were playing at Old Trafford. And he basically left before the game finished. Now he wasn't alone in that. The likes of Diego Dallo and Bruno Fernandes, the Portuguese continued the team, followed them out as well because that was clearly the click that was happening in Manchester United was team Camp Ronaldo and Camp Maguire. So Ten Hag, to his credit, has I think he done a very good management job in mitigating the risk of Maguire just being himself and not playing him. So he's weakened that kind of aspect of the team, and he's also taken out the Ronaldo camp. So now I think they're running with someone like Bruno as captain, and then a lot of the kind of high energy players now are playing week after week. Helps when you have Marshall and Rashford fit, and you have Anthony now as well, completing that triad. So the team are working well. They're working with a feasible level of football that would get them to the season. Might make them challenge for top four, if not like at least comfortably challenge for the Europa League. But again, we come back to the same issue, which is Ronaldo. Where do you fit him in? Whereas Eric Ten Hag's idea is you don't. You give him Europa League minutes. If he doesn't like that, fuck him. Which, as a manager, I fucking admire because that's exactly what I would have done in that situation. Because at that stage, you have to just accept that, like, he is just a massive egotist who is actively damaging your team. And essentially, the mistakes of past managers and past regimes are not your fault. You have to mitigate the risks as best you can. And dumping Ronaldo, leaving him on the subs bench, not using him, I think is the best way of doing it. Again, the issue is then you get little stunts like what happened at Tottenham, which obviously have been vastly reported on because of just how comically petty it is. The fact that like he's standing not even on the bench, he's standing like as if he was one of the coaching staff. Because again, he's seen as this messianic figure that he's allowed to do that. And then when he realizes he's not being used, he just walks off by himself, and he doesn't even stay with the team for the debrief. He's gone home, and shockingly enough, the rest of the team are going like, "Well, hang on, we're already in fourth or fifth place as it is. Why are we listening to this guy? We're clearly doing something better ourselves." fuck him. And that's, as you said there, the actual heel turn is complete because that click that Ronaldo had is very clearly diminished or going to this rate. And I suppose it's bad news for the rest of the league in the sense that Man United are starting to get their act together. But the melodrama that's following the one or two players is the least entertaining to us. But yeah, it's weird to see that. It's not weird to see, but it's nice to see like somebody at Man United have got their shit together to the extent where they're making all the right decisions. It's just the fact that now we're going to have to go through the tedious removing of the tumor that is Ronaldo. I just found it funny, to be absolutely honest, that someone who's purported themselves to be one of the best footballers in human history turns out to be just a massive 37-year-old baby who can't deal with the fact that he's replaceable. Like we know that like a lot of footballers have fragile egos as it is, and trust me, Ronaldo is not the only person. But it's nice to see that he can be crystallized into one massive dickhead, kind of way, regardless of the skill, regardless of the talent. But it's but I also have to give props to Eric Ten Hag for not buying into it, for actively saying like the goods of the many outweigh the needs of the few type of shit. You need to work with the bulk of your team. They're the ones that's going to get you through, not this has-been that is Ronaldo. And I'm happy to say that he has a has-been.
I find what I see in all of this is masterful man management by Ten Hag, in that it's not a case of, he's ignored Ronaldo. He's not ignored him. In fact, he has specifically he's put Ronaldo in. So you're saying he gets Europa League minutes. He actually he actually played almost the entire game against Newcastle.
Yes.
It was a drab 0-0. Which probably should not have been. But the different discussion. They were quite lucky to get out of that. Like how Varane didn't give away that fucking penalty is just beyond me. But in any case, it doesn't matter.
That's a conversation we'll have another time, of course.
That is. But what I mean by that is that Ten Hag has given Ronaldo enough rope to hang himself with. And this is what we're seeing now is the culmination of it. So, like, had Ronaldo walked out of a game having had Elanga subbed on in his place, even a month ago, everybody would have been like, "Oh yeah, Ronnie, yeah, you put this guy in his place." But now, Ten Hag is winning, and the ultimate judgment of a coach is if they're winning or not.
The results, yeah,
exactly. It's a results-driven business. That's it. See, they're getting results. They're getting huge results. And Ronaldo, every time he's been played, has been tripe. He's been shit, and that's just it. He's playing him in these games. Like he's like, oh well, if you can't score against Newcastle, I'm not going to field you against Chelsea.
Yeah.
As much as Chelsea would have loved to have seen Ronaldo line up, I have no doubt. He would have been an easier prospect to handle with.
The one time that he does play shit and he plays well, it'll be against Chelsea. In fairness, like like it's just that law of Murphy, as Van Gaal used to say. But but like I said, it's props to somebody actually taking control of the situation. Whereas I think
he's taking control. He's taking control in not appearing to take control. If you get me. So yes. It's kind of like the Futurama thing where it's like the God in Futurama thing, if you've done things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all. In much the same way, like Ronaldo's poor form, he's been playing like crap. It's fed into his form. Now people aren't supporting him anymore when he's throwing his strops, whereas beforehand they absolutely would have. It's like nobody's really crediting Ten Hag. Well, not a huge amount of people are crediting Ten Hag for actually little fingering all of this into existence.
Yeah.
He's planned for all of this. This is absolutely brilliant. Like Ronaldo walking out isn't bad. It's fucking excellent for him. He's loving it because now he can marginalize him because they can't get rid of him. They should cancel his contract and just get rid of him. But I'm like, they've sunk £60 million worth of wages into the guy. He's due another 60 million quid. No one is going to take that on. So you're saying the cancerous, this tumor that needs to be landed. I'm sorry, man. That tumor is leaving only when its contract is up.
Yeah, or they buy him out, which could have happened by the time it comes out.
They're not going to buy him out. It's too expensive. It's far too expensive. And at least if he stays until the end, they can maybe get some kind of value and feel them. And in any case, with the compressed season that they've gone on, jettisoning players right now is just not. It's not feasible. He is somewhat useful. He's not 60 million quid a year useful. Fuck no.
Mm-hmm.
But he can be fielded to a degree.
Yeah.
And this now, he's put himself in his place. Like Ten Hag, like Ronaldo realizes now that his strops aren't gaining any weight. He's like he's the toddler who realizes that their tantrums aren't really affecting anybody anymore. And they're like, okay, I'll behave. And so that's brilliant. This is all excellent for Ten Hag. If the club do sanction to get rid of him, I reckon he'll go for it. Whether or not that's a good idea or not, considering like they're relying on Martial, not really doing that well. Rashford has been tripe unless he's playing against Arsenal. Anthony has been stop-start. He's had a decent enough season, but
okay for his debut is not bad. Like that's the thing. Like, sometimes we get locked up on debut seasons, like So.
Exactly, yeah. And he's in his debut season. I'm like, it's obvious he can ball, but that's it.
Yeah.
So a pass outside of them, all they've got is Alanga and maybe, playing Eriksen further forward. That's all they've got. So yeah, but it's wonderful for Ten Hag. It's brilliant. The Ronaldo situation, like from the outside, it seems to have sorted itself out. When in actual fact, this was massive. Whole kind of okay, then yeah, I'll field you against Newcastle. I'll give up potentially 2 points, even though Newcastle are on form. Newcastle are on form and are really scaring the shit out of me. So yeah, no, it's great, and I'm loving it. I'm laughing at it. Again, I'm hating the fact that they've got their shit together. But Ten Hag does know what he's doing, and he's very, very much demonstrated that. He very much demonstrated it against us when they beat us, despite being completely outplayed. And so that's the United have hired a decent coach, and are letting him do what he does.
Yeah, well, what a welcome change of pace. But like I said, like it's to the point where like I'm actually quite sad in a sense that it has happened so early. I was hoping to get an extra few months of this debacle, and now that's not to say this might not continue on, because as you said, like the arc, like Ronaldo is kind of stuck in this situation. It's highly unlikely someone's going to come in for him unless it is a adequately daft team that would do it. Like it would take.
He's walled himself in with all of his cash. Like he's basically, he's built his cash fort. And he's like, I do not recognize your authority in fort capitalism. So that's it, and he just needs another team with an even bigger excavator made out of cash as well to dig him out of there. And just nobody's gonna do that. Nobody, like not even PSG, are stupid enough to come in and toss that amount of cash at a 37.
I think Nottingham Forest could do an extra striker, just saying. I mean, they already signed Lingard. I mean, that's enough of a waste of money as it is, like,
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Holy fuck. Yeah. Talk about burning money.
Yeah, exactly. But that is the kind of that should be the kind of the cautionary tale as well for a lot of those type of superstars, that like eventually you do have to accept the fact that like you need career opportunities. You need to give yourself options in that sense, because Ronaldo, as I said, has just kind of given himself only one feasible place to go, and that's the substitute bench for Manchester United. Because, like I said, the empirical data is there; it's proven. If they weren't playing, if they opted for someone like, say, you mentioned in the Newcastle game, if they played someone like Elanga from the start, would their XG have gone up? Would their chances of actually winning have been improved? Like it's actually, it would be interesting to see what the hypothetical is there. Especially that like there's only so many excuses you make for someone that doesn't fit the system as well. With the Europa League, we'll joke and we'll slag them off for toiling against teams from Cyprus and the like. But as I said, like you like there's only, that team is inherited from like what, Van Gaal, from Mourinho at this rate.
Yeah, there's still Mourinho era players. There's still Mourinho era players knocking around that squad, which is like, yeah, that's incredible to even think.
Exactly, and that's what the whole, how daft it all sounds in the sense.
Absolutely, yeah. The only way they could be any more antiquated is if they were fielding actual velociraptors.
Yeah, that's actually, when you look at Maguire, in fairness, yeah, he's a bit of a dinosaur. but that's the thing, like, so like I think out of everyone, like Ten Hag does deserve the credit for that, because he is getting a tune out of a team that isn't essentially his yet. Because as many people have said, even Ralph Ragnick has said, no, this team needs 11 players. It needs a complete fucking dump the hand of cards and start again type of plan. So to even get a modicum of progress and improvement out of essentially a starting 11 and maybe one or two others you can rely off the bench. And also helps as well that they can call upon what is a genuinely really talented generation of youngsters from their youth team. The likes of Short here, Garnacho, Zdenek Bal. These are players who are going to be big time. Like they are going to be top stars if they're developed right. At least now you have a coach that'll give them minutes and give them time. Once you get rid of the actual child in the room, that's Ronaldo. So it's good for United to actually have a positive trajectory for a change. But the real question, I suppose, is how much progress can make this season, and how much of that is actually dependent on Ronaldo leaving or being part of the setup. Is it more?
Well, I think
it's better.
Yeah, well, I think they've just tried to extract Ronaldo from the equation altogether, and just right, if we field them in the Europa League, because they're second in their group, they're behind Sociedad. So that means that they're potentially looking at February preliminary knockouts game.
Yeah, potentially, which would be against the drip boss from the Champions League.
Yeah, he's against the Champions League drip tray. Whereas the winners of the group don't have to do that. Which is one of the reasons why Arsenal have been going so hard in recent games in the Europa League. It's because we top the group. You don't have to play. I think you miss. Yeah, you
get a buy into the next round.
You play 2 games less. I'm like, that's always something worth playing. It's always something worth playing for.
It's also the quantity of the actual teams you're facing, because, as you said, with Arsenal top of the Europa League, you're skipping that part of it. You get a free draw of whoever you want. But if you're going into the drip tray, let's say, look at the drip tray this year. It's Benfica, it's Juventus, it's Barcelona. These are serious fucking teams that you don't want to face, And we don't know who else will drop in there. Fucking Liverpool will drop in there. Ajax is going to be there, potentially. Spurs, if they keep making hard work in this group, could be there as well.
I wouldn't be worried about Ajax. Spurs,
yeah.
That's I see that. But again, what's the success? The success will be purely on Ten Hag, and getting a proper song out of these players. From the Spurs game. The Spurs game was weird. The Spurs game was the first game. I think that's the first game this season where they've actually played like he has wanted them to. So when you look at the previous high profile victories, which was against Liverpool and Arsenal, unfortunately, this season they did beat Liverpool, didn't they? Yeah.
They did. They beat us at home 2-1, or 2-0,
So that was just pure counter football. They knew which side to go down and just pour down on one side and just hit the brake. Whereas with Spurs, they didn't. They completely dominated the game and absolutely overran them. And that's because now they're getting Casemiro to do what they want him to do, which is he's kind of sitting further back and allowing Bruno Fernandes to kind of maraud forward. Basically similar to what we're doing with Partey. In that we've gone from a double pivot to a single pivot midfield system, with Partey as that single pivot, allowing Xhaka to maraud further forward, which is playing well into his strengths. His renaissance.
Well, that's how he plays for Switzerland as well.
Yeah, his renaissance has just been waxed lyrical by I don't know how many commentators. I was watching the commentary for the PSV match, and holy fuck, like they were just falling over themselves.
Xhaka propaganda.
It was just falling over themselves just to describe. Like, I hate it because they go on describing the bad parts of his career for 3-4 times longer than they describe this brilliant run of form and this brilliant period of his career. Now it's like, yeah, lads, chill the fuck out. He hasn't been bad all whole time. Yeah, there've been blips, but he's playing the best football ever of his life.
Yeah.
But it's similar to that. So with Casemiro further back, they're not playing 2 there. They're kind of playing like a 4-1-4-1 almost.
Which is a very Ajax system as well.
It's great Ajax system, yeah. And it's enabling Bruno Fernandes to just do his thing further forward and get in opponents' faces a lot more. And the success of the season will be purely down to just the players adapting to Ten Hag and getting into a system. And stopping listening to people like Ronaldo, and whether or not Ten Hag can reintegrate a lot of his fallen squad. So he's never going to attempt to reintegrate Ronaldo. That's a lost cause. But I'm talking like Maguire. Can
yeah, Maguire and like Wan-Bissaka will be the two that, like, especially from the English perspective, would want to try and get them back into the fold.
Well, exactly. When you look at Shaw's well back into that team, like, and he's playing actually fairly good.
Yeah, look against Chelsea, to his credit now, in fairness.
Yeah, no, he rocked it against Chelsea. So, like, credit is where credit's due kind of guy. And, Shaw's been surprisingly good to the point where when we were talking about England teams, I put him into my England team.
Yeah.
Because he's actually been playing quite good for Man U, which is not something I ever thought I'd be saying.
But it's a difference in coaching as well. That's
exactly. That's just it.
A lot of players just need better coaching, realistically,
Pure coaching, and it's if you're a Man U fan, like, you're like, oh, why? All right, this is what we've been going for the whole time. This is what he's been trying to do. This is what he's been aiming for. The Spurs game is what you're looking at. As we started this, United just netted a 94th minute equalizer against Chelsea.
Yes.
So that's another one. But that was a dire, horrible, drab match. But they came out of it with a draw, which they probably would have taken.
And was a very fair result, I'll be honest. No, neither team deserved to win that match. But like I said, like but that much of the point, it's also they're getting points from those type of matches that will kind of count up in the end of the season, because not only you've given a point to yourself, but you're taking 2 off Chelsea, and that's almost like the benefit of all that in a weird way.
Absolutely. I mean, that keeps them within like the current table now is they're a point behind Chelsea.
Yes,
so they're 4th and 5th. Chelsea in 4th, Man U in 5th. So yeah, that's great. That's keeping them there. As an Arsenal fan, I'm fucking delighted as well, because that means Man U show.
It's just more daylight between you guys, like.
Yeah, they're 7 points behind, and we have a game in hand, and that's tomorrow against Southampton. So if we beat Southampton, that puts us 10 ahead of them.
Yeah.
And 9 ahead of Chelsea.
Which would be quite nice.
Yeah, but everybody haven't played all the games. It also put us 4 ahead of City. So happy out with that.
Absolutely.
No, by the way, that's not a precursor for Neil now thinks Arsenal are going to win the league. Fuck no, I don't.
It's more a case of like surviving the zombie apocalypse. Who can outlast Man City the longest before they eventually catch up? Like, isn't it? That's how it feels like almost.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just weird. But the media narrative is now really starting to turn on Arsenal. Like, we've handily gone under the radar ish, only for a few clickbaity articles so far. But I think if we win every game, if we win all our games now until the World Cup break, I don't think we're flying under the radar come the end of the World Cup or coming out.
This is the thing. This is the type of season where form is so important, because one loss derails your entire season almost. But that's the thing. It's different when you're going for a title, like, say, like using Liverpool as an example there. Like, we just lost against Forest at the time of recording. So I'm not really necessarily shocked at that result anymore, because that's kind of been our season. It's been like one step forward, 2 steps back type of thing. But then again, I've accepted that we're not title contenders this year. Our target is to kind of stay in the top 4 and hope for the best in that sense, maybe get a cup out of it. But like, our season is probably not going to really start until February, until the World Cup is over, because our team is just so disrupted as it is. And thankfully, a lot of the players are now not going to make it to the World Cup, which gives them a chance to fucking recover. And that's our opportunity to actually work on the team and get focused. Like, there's talk of doing friendlies and training camps and all this sort of jazz, just to actually attack the second half of the season.
Yeah, I
think a lot of teams are being in that camp too. Like,
I was hearing that Arsenal are planning like friendlies against teams like fucking Inter Milan and shit like that. I was like,
well, I've heard that we potentially we're getting something in New York, for ourselves in AC Milan, basically, just to do do things in the off season to get money in the for windows and that. Because like I said, we have like transfer targets we want in the summer, so we want to get money for it. But every club is doing stuff like that anyway, and I'm sure, like, even we're talking about United, they'll be doing the same thing.
So, like, it's interesting to see what Ten Hag gets, if he cracks the whip on the hierarchy and says, look, I'm finally turned this whole thing around. We're going in the right direction. January is coming up. I need cash, and you're going to give it to me, motherfuckers.
Well, that is the question now. Is this a case of where, like, is this a stick and twist situation for Ten Hag? Is it better off for him to stick to the core that he has and build something with it, or should he start wheeling and dealing? Does he sell and buy players in January, or does he stick to what he has?
He wheels and deals. There's
Okay.
There's a lot of fat to be trimmed out of that squad. You know, he can actually, and fully enough, he can do both of your options. He can wheel and deal and stick to his core. You know, because a lot of his core are playing the way he wants them to. Some kind of really aren't. But there's a lot that he can get rid of in that team. There's an awful lot, as we stated just a few minutes ago. Some of that team goes back to Mourinho. You know, so you're telling me there's no room for improvement in that squad? Fuck off. Like, no way. There's lots of room to improve in that squad. He won't be able to get rid of the people that he absolutely wants to probably get rid of. Any Ronaldo and maybe Maguire.
And Phil Jones, let's be fair. He's still there.
Phil Jones is still there. Holy God. Like, holy shit.
Can't get rid of him.
That's crazy.
I think he's a club receptionist at this rate, to be honest.
He's back up to the tea lady or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, no, but that's again, like shit like that. Like, holy fuck. Like, if you've still got Phil Jones, you've not got a complete squad. Like, that's bad. So, yeah, he can do both of those things. He can stick